I'll have to. I wonder. I'll have to check with lawyers first too. But
yes, and that's why I figured I'd
see.
ask.
Yeah, we'll see.
So very nice to meet you, first of all.
Nice to meet you.
I had about 1 million questions written down, and that was when we first got here.
Yeah, okay.
Listened to Simon talk for about an hour.
Yeah, okay.
And then feel like I had a lot of things answered. So I think what I want to focus on with you is vision, direction, and kind of how you're feeling about the game.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. Less technical questions and more conceptual questions,
Yeah, sure.
I guess.
Shoot,
if
man.
that's all
You can
right.
ask whatever you want.
All right. One of the big ones was why did you guys choose early access for Den of Wolves?
We are a very early access focused studio in many ways. We used to do, we come from a culture of gold master stuff from back in the day, doing gold masters, and it's such a toll on the psyche. So early access helps us to sort of, mitigate that a bit, because otherwise you end up procrastinating a lot, or you're, the whole team is too stressed around the release. So early access gives us a bit of room to move. There's also, of course, other things like being able to ship something that has a limited feature set, so we can look at each feature and say okay, this is probably the right depth to go at, figure out stuff like pacing and this kind of thing. So there's a lot of I know it's an unsexy word, but data related game design decisions that can be made with this kind of approach. So in general, just a mental health
Right. Okay.
and game design related choice.
Yeah.
Helps with your workflow.
Yeah, and just to make it a nicer experience. It still sucks to ship stuff, but it's it makes it easier in a lot of ways. At the same time, we're not a studio that GTFO. We were extremely picky with the quality on release day, so we try to. We're going to try to do the same here and try to be, in the good bracket of early access games.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we saw early access, a good chunk of my community was very concerned. Some developers, it feels like it's like a cop out, or they're trying to cheat people with it. And I said, I don't think that's what it is, and I'm glad you gave that answer.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure people that would cheat with it and cop out would say the same thing. So it's all, the proof is in the pudding, I guess, and of just we'll have to do what we say and say what we do as usual. Right. So we'll see. I might be fooling you. You don't know.
You gave the right answer, even if you're fooling me. So I think that's good. So.
Yeah, but it's as gamers ourselves, we try to avoid promising dates. We try to avoid promising features and just take our time to try to make a good game. You spend too much time working on something and then ship it, and then I wonder if people you want to ship something that you can sort of mold a bit and make sure it's the game you want it to be, basically.
Right. That kind of segues perfectly into just overall vision for the game. Something I see a lot in some more modern games is either they don't have a vision, they don't know what they want the game to be when they start, release it or are working on it, or they let that vision become clouded, I guess. So you seem like you want to be very strict on, making the game exactly what you're looking for and what you want. Is Den of Wolves going to be like that, or are you willing to bend on a few things to have more people playing the game?
Yeah, I mean, the game is a game that's designed for a bigger community than GTFO. GTFO was intentionally extremely hardcore, so it's a bit more easy on the eyes almost. But I would say, of course, I have a vision of what I want it to be, but I'm also working with a team. So depending on what people can do and what they do, and also what they add themselves. So sometimes you'll have somebody add a feature or a thing that you know, never thought about, or they add it in their spare time, which is the worst one. But at the same time, you have to encourage it, because this is, you know, also, if it's a great thing, and you know, somehow it's a bit of a feature creep problem, but sometimes there's also some golden nuggets in there, you know. Sometimes you have a goal, like for me a vision is having a goal of how it's supposed to play, not necessarily the feature set. And so of course you have an idea of what the features should be and how they should be executed, but that might not work. And usually a problem is going too deep on things. So you're like, oh, we should have all of these things and that makes a good game, you know. Right. If that's your design by feature, you're gonna fail probably. So, but if you know how it's supposed to feel and what the goals are within that and how to get there, then you can sort of alter the feature set and you can alter the way you implement things. Right. So running into problems, running out of time, you know, whatever, or finding out like, oh, this is too deep or too detailed or the pacing is off. Like I'm doing all this cool shit, but I'm doing it at the wrong time. Right. Like I'm sitting in the lobby with strangers and I'm fiddling around with my equipment or customizing my character. That's probably a wrong, like a bad choice, right? So being able to like scale that and stuff means like the feature part of the vision doesn't necessarily have to come across like from the original way of seeing the game. Preferably you make all the content and the code, especially the content, quite modular. So you're looking at something that you can sort of reshape into, like, how do we reach that goal? What's my options? What's my tool set to reach that goal? So I'm heavy into like production design stuff, where it's like I'll make very modular pieces so I can go, okay, now I have like 4 options of how to do that thing. And sometimes you'll find new combinations of the tools you have in front of you, you know.
I did something I noticed with that is GTFO, modular rooms. I'm sure that made the map designing a little more streamlined, and so you could...
Definitely. So one of the things that a lot of like other developers that you go to shows or have phone calls or meet up in bars, a lot of people were concerned about that for GTFO, that like making a game like that, especially since there's stealth components and this kind of thing, that it wouldn't work because you need to have like super detailed control of the maps, which is true in a way, but changing how you design enemies and changing how you do certain elements in the game, or like certain phases of the game, you can change like what the requirement is from a map and how the player is like looking at a map. So it actually worked out really well for us. And also the fact that like I was like a 6-man team in the beginning. I think we were 6 or 7 shipping it. Right. So I think that's your proof of like how efficient it was. Yes. You know? Yeah, and I think we drifted actually away from that even during like training people, because we had a period where we were training a lot of developers on GTFO. And with their input, that level editing style changed into a more traditional thing. And we started losing a lot of velocity. And then during Dawn of Wolves, we've lost even more velocity, and it became like super stale. So now we've moved back all the way down to like GTFO effective, like efficiency, but it's, I would say, even more efficient than GTFO. Right. So still adapting to a bigger team, you can do a bit more like brute force stuff, and yeah, a very like analytical model instead of like, I'm gonna place a table over here with stuff on it, you know, because it's somehow the border between like a level artist and an environment artist is unclear a lot of times. And like a level designer will make like a mock-up map, and it's like, now it plays. Then environment art will, you know, make it pretty. And then you play it. Eventually you get down to like changing some mechanics and stuff, and then suddenly it's not playing anymore, and now you have a destructive workflow because now you have to remake.
Back and forth.
Yeah. So now you're really messing with people's like the energy and the passion they put into this. So the trick is to find like a balance where like an environment artist actually can put their soul into something, but we can still like modify the layouts and this.
Right. Make it so that people can fulfill themselves creatively.
Yeah, well, people have a limited amount of creative gasoline, basically. Yes. So if you go like, okay, now you can put the passion down, and then they do it, and then you say, by the way, I'm going to change all of that. Yeah. Then it's a good strategy to be hated, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to be the bad guy sometimes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's the point of the game, though, and that's what I like to do. So, I have a little bit of a hard-hitting one. People have been a little concerned talking about the gun for hire type system. I'm not sure if you've gotten that question yet.
Internally, yes. I think some journalists have asked the same question. I know what you're talking about.
If you'd like to, I guess, explain it and then kind of tell me what your goals are for it.
So the dilemma you're looking at basically is you're saying, so imagine if I want to give players a lot of choice, and what they decide to do has a lot of effect on the game in general, and not just like, oh, what gun are you bringing to the map?
Having played it now, I see that where one mistake can actually screw everybody.
So certain things. So in the map, if you play the big heist thing, then like even like which vault you pick first, in which order you pick them, can be like a life and death thing, or how much loot do we get out, this kind of thing. So the person or the people sort of owning that thing has to make certain choices, right? Because that's can also, if we want that choice to be able to affect your storyline, then if I drop into your game and fuck that up, then I don't want to play with you. Like you don't want to play with me, that is. So if I can come in and do that, And also there's a lot of games, if you look at like games living for a while, like I'm a big player of Left 4 Dead back in the day. And if you play Left 4 Dead like a couple of years past release, you join like a small group and you'd see one guy just run off and complete the whole thing. And there's me and some other dudes like running around trying to survive. But you could see one guy just like cruising through the thing. And the problem is, of course, there's no like, in that game, there's no sort of gathering mechanics of saying like, okay, now we all have to do this thing. And that person also doesn't need us to do anything. So the trick for us is to make something where, to be able to make those design things, we have to say, you are limited in a way. But that doesn't mean you're only like, oh, I'm just gonna shoot stuff. There's gonna be stuff for you to do. And we're also looking at like, if it's up to these guys to open up, like how much do I want you to be able to do? So maybe there's a thing where, maybe there's a point of saying like, we're having issues with completing this thing. Maybe we should invite somebody that actually knows what the fuck they're doing,
right,
to try to help us. So maybe there's a sliding thing. We're still working on that part of it, but like the initial approach is basically to say, let's segment off a bit of the things. So we're able to actually make this, because otherwise we're in that. So one of the things with GTFO is that we didn't give a fuck about grief players, and that opened up a whole like box of fun toys, right, as a developer. Because otherwise I'm like, oh, but they're gonna grief you and they're gonna make this, and he's not gonna stand in the scan, and do. And if you say, fuck that then, because don't play with that, idiot.
Right.
It's a very hardcore approach.
Yes.
But at the same time, that's GTFO, right? So then you're like, that opens up so many things. And it's the same case here, where we say, what if we say, I block you from doing certain actions? Then those actions can actually have a meaning. It's like I'm playing like Minecraft on a Minecraft server, and I'm building a house, and then you join and break my house. Then I'm like, fuck playing online, man. So sometimes you got to make those choices, and then it's up to us to try to motivate this other dude to have a fun time and motivate them to join you and help you, basically. There's also something about the psychology of saying, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to do this other stuff. I'm here to do this thing. And the other person is like, I need help. So you're basically setting the parameters of like, how are we supposed to interact with each other? What's our roles? If we say we have exactly even roles in it, then that's how we're going to play it. I think a good example of this experiment is if you join the GTFO Discord servers. Yep. It's basically saying like, hey guys, I need help. Yep. And there's gonna be dudes in there who's like, of course, you know.
I met two longtime friends from there because I needed help. I had one friend playing the game, needed two people, and they're my crew.
And I think like if you can encourage that kind of behavior, then you know, all the power to it, I think.
That clears it up a lot, because I think when I initially heard the gun for hire system, I was like, that's kind of gross, but I need to see kind of what the vision is behind it.
Yeah, and so sometimes basically just to boil it down is like, if I make a choice like that, it enables me to do a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. And I think those are more valuable than saying, let's do it what everybody else is doing, because it limits our design choices. Basically.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really insightful way to look at it, and it gives you a lot of options when you just agree that some people are not going to enjoy playing the game, and you can make something that's even more fun.
If that's the case, if we can't motivate them enough to play it like that, then yeah, that is fine. I don't give a fuck, man. It has to be something that makes it has to do something. It has to make a difference. If we want to make like a thing where you say, oh, the player has some agency over what's happening in the storyline, and then like just let anybody fuck with it. You know, they're not the reaction would be, I won't play with strangers. So you're gonna just segment that off. Right. And I'd rather have people just like, oh, I can play like that. You know, preferably if you think about how you play a game. If you play like, I think like Destiny is a good example, or something like this. You will like play with your friends a bit, and I think this is maybe an age thing, but like you'll play with somebody for a couple hours, and then they drop off, and then you're alone, and like, you know, I'll just do a bit of grinding, or I'll fuck around with my gear a bit, or do a bit of meta tweaking. Diablo is the same. Yeah. And I like that. Look at a game where it has multiple ways of playing it. And I think like that guns for hire thing is really one of those where you go like, the other dudes aren't online. I'll play like this for a while to get at this other thing that I need, So yeah, it's gonna be hinging on the motivational part of it, and like, when do I play like this? When do I do this?
No, I think the reasoning behind that makes a lot of sense now. So. Very good.
I think so.
Yeah. No, I hope other people see it that way as well, because kind of leading into my next one, Payday 2, very big in my community, and I'm sure to you. What do you have to say to people moving from Payday 2 to Den of Wolves? What should their expectation be, and do you think they'll enjoy it, moving from something as fast-paced and almost single-player, surrounded by friends, versus something really team-oriented like Den of Wolves?
Yeah, so Den of Wolves is, of course, not as team-oriented as GTFO, but it's definitely trying to lean on the cooperative aspects, but then trying to open the doors for other players. But like if
PAYDAY the Heist, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there are varying. I would say it depends on when you're looking at PAYDAY the Heist. PAYDAY the Heist, the first one you mean? Yeah. But like I think Payday 2. If you're looking at that, it's a long evolution of a game. So you're looking at like, what is it now and what was it in the beginning, and what's the versions in between, right? And I think it really, like a good cooperative game is something that requires a bit of cooperation to me, I enjoy Destiny, but I've had, I enjoy the periods of it when I'm just shooting shit and then we run into some problem, and now we have to start to try to figure it out. And again, I think this is a good reference to Diablo. Destiny is basically Diablo, but this sort of ebb and flow of challenges is really nice, where we have to, oh my God. And I think like GTFO is that it's constantly saying, fuck you, you have to talk and you have to, there's no rest. Like the rest in GTFO is not playing. So, if we can do something where you have a bit more, missions that are a bit more relaxed, a bit, I don't need to plan. I can pick my favorite shit. I don't need to think about this as much. And then you run into certain heists that are like a bit more poppy, where you go like, okay, now we have to really think about how we're going to do it at least. It's probably going to be less gear-orientated in a sense of, you have to pick this thing. GTFO is really like, there's multiple strategies, and there's like this progressiveness of GTFO where you go down with a lot of like scouting intentions, and then you play a bit of scouting in the beginning, and then once you've figured out where the doors are and the layout is and what the objective really is, then you start to like go, okay, all sentry guns, or So I think we're gonna have a bit of that too, a bit of that progressive approach, but more in like how we're gonna execute it. What's the order of things? What's the choices we can be making that has an impact on it? And then your gear is more like a personal choice. Eventually, though, when the game starts to get harder and harder, that meta of what you're bringing will seep into the game 100%, because and at that point, I think if you're playing at that difficulty, you're probably, and this is something that I say with intention, you're probably not playing with strangers, but in reality, that's where the strongest communities form, when the developers like, you're not going to play with strangers, and then they join up and go, we're going to play with strangers. Like, yeah.
I'm going to do it because you said I shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then that's where the psychology works too, the social, because then now we're like, we know what the terms are. Like, we're not supposed to do this, so we have to be nice to each other, and then that works. It's like ending up playing like one of the raids in Destiny with strangers. It could be horrible, or it could be the best experience in your life. So, but that's like, I wouldn't say end game, but that's like hopefully where the more hardcore people will gravitate to, and hopefully we can move people from like, I'm trying cooperative for the first time, all the way down the line to play seriously, because it's the most fun, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I'll never forget meeting those two people through GTFO. It's just something else. I don't know.
So if you imagine like GTFO being like heroin for like cooperative nuts, then it was more like a gateway drug.
Perfect. Yeah,
We're trying to move you to heroin.
Wolves, and then at the end of the day, GTFO is your
Hopefully there's
final
going to be, I'm going to get hammered for this reference, but it's a good one. We try to we're going to try to slide you into that behavior, like into
teach you that you
to that addiction.
yourself.
Yeah.
I guess that'll lead into one final thing, and then one extra thing that I'd like to ask. So the, I guess, replayability of it was a little bit of a concern at first for some of us content creators. We've talked about it a little more, and I think I see the replayability, like GTFO, where there's no skill system or anything so far. We're pre-alpha, pre-alpha, by the way. Yeah. But there's no skill system or anything. It seems like you're choosing weapons and equipment, and then just going in, and it's based on your skill. That's kind of what you're intending?
I think depending on what and we were still exploring a bit like what to expand and how deep to expand things for the early access release, right? So we're looking at what we try to do usually is we establish these clear things, and then we balance for the clear things. And then we say, okay, now we know what the foundational, like I know how a shotgun is supposed to play, as an example. Now I can sort of go, with a shotgun I can go in multiple directions, and I can sort of expand it a bit and explore that space. But I need to establish the base of the shotgun, right? So I need to see a lot of players playing with the shotgun to see. So we might just go, okay, for early access, we go a very fixed set, or we start to, look at like the versions. It depends on like team focus and where our problems are popping up, and who's gonna solve what problem.
Right.
It's still we're about like, what are we now, 60, 70 developers or something, and it's still a very small crew. So we have to think about that kind of stuff. But I would say the utopian version of this is like, so, finding things, customizing things to adapt them to a specific challenge is probably the coolest version of the game, So I think the golf bag sort of design of like, which club am I picking now? And I can only pick 3, and I have 18. And I'm like, maybe I don't play golf, but something like this. But being able to like make or modify that golf club a bit to make it behave a bit like this is like the utopian version of it. So that's probably that is the goal to get there, and then we'll see if that's the best version of the game or not.
Right.
But we have to see how it's played first, I think.
And I think the best thing about that kind of system is you might be better with one type of golf club, but I like using a different one for the same result.
Yeah.
And so.
But that also makes it, harder to balance and harder to figure out exactly how that thing is playing. So
I don't envy your position on that one. Like that's tough to it's a tough line to walk.
But I'd rather always come out with something that's a bit limited so I can balance that and hit that. If I come out with something that's too big, it's overwhelming and it's just a pile of shit that you're trying to move around, So I tend to. That's one of the reasons, again, to harken back to your first question about early access. It's like the perfect argument,
Right.
because you're just, again, being able to look at the data for a specific set of things and just say, okay, this is how it's being played. This is the balancing. This is, but also play it and just say, that's fun. This is not fun.
Yeah.
How can we make this fun? If we make that fun, maybe we fuck something up in the future and this kind of thing. So, yeah.
One small request, if I can.
Yeah.
Payday 2, you didn't come back to record voice lines, and there is no version of you saying the word medic. Would you like to say to the camera?
To the camera.
The word medic, or would you like to tell them no?
If I do it here, the audio would probably be shit because you have.
They'll take
What would it
anything.
say?
They will take anything. It's a medic, like that.
Okay. I'll try. It will sound
pressure.
like
You don't have to,
an
so.
older.
That's perfect, yeah.
I'll have to. I wonder. I'll have to check with lawyers first too. But
Yes, and that's why I figured I'd
see.
ask.
Yeah, we'll see. But
That's it. I think that's all we have time for, and it was a pleasure talking to you. So thank you so much for all your insights.
Nice meeting you.
thank you.